why this woman physically can't hear men, but perfectly hears women? Like, what's going on?
In early 2019,
She can't hear this
a woman
video?
in China starts feeling a bit sick, vomiting,
Or
and
Bruce
hearing
video
a
for that
constant
matter.
ringing in her ears. Deciding that it's best to get some rest, she does what most of us would and goes back to bed, hoping to feel better the next day. In the morning, she wakes up to a bizarre turn of events. She's unable to hear her boyfriend's voice at all. Alarmed, she goes to see a doctor, whose voice she can hear perfectly well. What would happen if you
Is it
woke
like a
up one
pitch
day
thing?
and suddenly stopped hearing the voice of the person you love?
Maybe she can only hear
This is the
certain
story
pitches.
of a woman who can no longer hear the voices of men.
We have too manly a voice for her. Our voices are too deep.
Y'all ready for some top fun?
Mav's back, baby.
What? No!
It'll be all right, Grill. Thanks
Is
to our
this the
video
Nord?
sponsor, NordVPN, we can get access
I
to
bought
your plan
500.
plus 1 month free. This bundle deal is totally risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back
30-day.
guarantee.
Oh, wow, huge.
That's nordvpn.com/brew. Identified only by her last name, Chun was throwing up one night and not feeling too great. She started hearing a constant ringing in her ears and decided to go to sleep and recover. The next morning, Chun woke up to discover that she was deaf to her boyfriend's words. She couldn't hear or understand anything he said. Seeing how quickly things had gotten worse, Chun rushed to the hospital and spoke with Dr. Lin Xiaoqing. To add to the mystery, Chun was still able to hear the doctor's voice. While she was getting checked out, a young patient entered and, when he spoke, Chun couldn't hear his voice at all. In another example of selective hearing loss, Dr. Neil Bauman had been affected his whole life. When he was only 4 or 5 years old, his dad got the first hint that something might be up. Neil's dad was standing behind him and asked if he wanted to ride in the car. Little Neil loved to go in the car, but he ignored his father's question. Another
so did
time,
I.
his parents asked him if he wanted ice cream.
I
and
always
he
wanted to go for a car ride. Anytime I got in the car, I'd have the best nap ever. It was great.
didn't even react. This case concerns
Ice
not
cream.
only hearing loss, but also an increase in hearing abilities. Neil discovered that he could hear sounds so faint that others couldn't hear them until the sound energy was multiplied 1,000 times. He could hear kids whispering across the classroom and the buzz of the TV from anywhere in the house,
Whoa.
but couldn't hear the teacher talking right in front of him or the voices coming from the television. Things Neil could hear included dog whistles that are silent
Ugh.
to most people's ears, a phone ringing in a house across the street, and insects chirping a block away. But sounds like fire
Those all
truck
sound-
sirens, a huge
Whoa,
18-wheeler
that'd be scary to
rumbling as
listen
it
to all
drove
day.
beside him, and thunderclaps? Neil didn't register these at all.
What?
While we say Neil had hearing loss, his range of hearing was actually huge. It was just different from what society calls normal. Neil actually kind of had super hearing powers. His hearing did change as he got older, and he lost his high-frequency hearing abilities over time.
Huh.
Returning to Chun's case, she wasn't able to hear her partner, or the patient who asked her doctor a
That
question
is so scary.
during her
All you can hear is like the white noise. Holy, that is. I don't think I'd enjoy that. Like, I don't know. That's weird.
appointment. The main difference was that Dr. Lin was a woman, while the patient and Chun's partner were both men. Chun had suddenly lost her hearing for low-frequency sounds. Both Chun and Neil have a rare condition called reverse slope hearing loss. To understand this type of hearing loss, we should understand how hearing works and why we have trouble hearing high-pitched sounds as we age. Sound waves enter the ear canal, making our eardrums vibrate with the different noises. These vibrations continue moving through the ossicles, which are tiny bones in the middle ear that connect the eardrum to the cochlea. The cochlea is a very important hearing organ that
like a
contains
snail.
fluid and looks like a spiral-shaped bone.
Hey, that's
We
what
have
I
about
said.
16,000
bony
tiny
snail.
structures or hair cells in our cochleas when we're born. Sound waves make the fluid inside the cochlea ripple, which in turn causes changes in the hair cells. The movement of the hair cells sends electrical signals to our brain, where the signals are translated into the sounds we perceive. Hair cells at the apex of the cochlea transfer low-pitched sound information, and hair cells at the opposite end transfer high-pitched sound information. The hairs break over time, and the ones that detect high-frequency sounds are more delicate and tend to die first. This means most of us struggle to hear higher frequencies as we age. But older people have used this hearing loss to their advantage sometimes. The mosquito is a device which got its name for the buzzing noise it makes, intentionally set at a high frequency that can only be heard by younger people. It's very annoying when played non-stop, or so I'm told. The mosquito is used to prevent younger people from loitering around at malls and other places.
I don't think I've ever heard
for the last few
mosquito.
seconds. Did you hear it? These devices might also be incredibly annoying to people with reverse slope hearing loss who struggle to hear low frequency sounds. Remember, Chun could hear her female doctor's voice, but not her boyfriend.
Wait, was it playing a sound?
Younger people lost to their advantage, which got its name for the buzzing noise it makes, intentionally set at a high frequency that can only be heard by younger people. It's very annoying, but not her boyfriend.
Wait, am I tripping?
These devices might also be incredible.
Wait, you guys actually hear some shit. Maybe it's the headphones. I can't hear anything. I literally can't hear anything. Wait, am I old? Wait, I'm not old, am I? Wait, what's happening?
It's been playing for the last few seconds. Did you hear it?
No.
These devices might also be incredibly annoying to people with reverse slope hearing loss who struggle to hear low frequency sounds. Remember, Chun could hear her female doctor's voice, but not her boyfriend.
My
or
body
the
is
other
just
male
shutting
patient,
down.
because deeper voices have a lower frequency that she became deaf to. RSHL is a disorder that gets its name from the shape it makes on an audiogram, the graph of a hearing test. On the y-axis, we see the hearing level sensitivity for humans. On the x-axis, we see the frequency, or how high-pitched the sound is. For someone struggling to hear high-frequency sounds as they age, the audiogram looks like a slope that goes down to the right. A reverse slope does the opposite and goes up to the right. But not all cases of RSHL are the same. There are 3 levels or classes of the disorder. In Class 1, a gentle slope shows mild hearing loss of low frequencies. This is the most common form of this condition. The range of hearing is about 30 decibels. Class 2, which is rarer, has a much steeper line. Lower frequency noises need to be played very loud before people in this range can hear it. Oddly enough, the hearing becomes normal as the sounds get higher. So while people in Class 2 are much worse at lower sounds, they're pretty much okay with higher frequencies. The range of hearing is larger, usually 60 to 90 decibels. The most rare and most curious level is Class 3.
A lot of classes, a lot of
This
stuff going on
is an audiogram
right
of Neil's hearing levels at age 21. There is severe hearing loss in the low frequency side. But on the other hand, there is super sensitivity to high frequency sounds that normal hearing wouldn't be able to pick up at all. The range from the lowest to highest sound heard is huge, over 100 decibels. Out of all the people who are hard of hearing in North America, only 1 in 12,000 of them will have Class 3 RSHL. In Neil's case, his condition was genetic. He got it from his mother and had it his whole life. RSHL ran in his family for at least 5 generations. But with Chun, there were no symptoms of hearing loss before the day she woke up unable to hear her boyfriend. While we can't say for sure why this happened, Dr. Lean, who is an ENT specialist, seemed to think it was caused by Chun's lifestyle. She said that low-frequency deafness has been increasing in the past few years, and it's more commonly found in people who are busy, overworked, stressed, fatigued, and losing sleep due to staying up late. Most of the time, low-frequency hearing loss will be either a hereditary trait or due to ear conditions like cochlear hydrops or Meniere's disease. When it is genetic, the loss tends to be more severe, in Class 2 or 3. According to Neil, who is a hearing loss specialist, hereditary low-frequency hearing loss seems to be a dominant gene trait, instead of a recessive gene like most hearing conditions. This means that the children in families with the condition have a 50% chance of having it, and most generations of the family will have this hearing loss. Other genetic hearing conditions often have a 25% chance of passing on, and it can skip generations. There are 3 stages of RSHL. In stage 1, the hearing of lower pitched sounds drops
kinda
quickly
wacky,
until around age 5. From then, it's stage 2, where things mostly stay the same until roughly age 50. At stage 3, the condition does not get worse, but people will lose their high-frequency sensitivity due to aging. This means that overall, they become very hard of hearing. RSHL affects the ability to hear lower frequency sounds and is different from sudden deafness, overall hearing loss, or hearing loss in one side. For another case of unusual hearing loss, let's look into the story of Dr. Stephanie M. Rose. She did not have reverse slope hearing loss, but a different sudden hearing experience. Stephanie was born with what is considered regular hearing, and she passed all of her hearing tests in school. However, she did need pressure tubes in her eardrums to help drain the fluid buildup. When Stephanie was in university, she got a call from her sister, who was 19 years older, who said she woke up with sudden hearing loss. A doctor diagnosed her with Meniere's disease. This was the first time that anyone in the family had hearing loss.
I felt like it was fate. I called up my dad and I said, "I'm sorry, Dad, I'm going to have to be in school for 4 more years after my bachelor's because I'm going to change my major to audiology, and you have to have a doctorate in order to practice and use that degree."
During her first semester of grad school, she learned how to do sound booth checks and was listening to make sure the sound was coming through well when she thought something was wrong with the right headphone. She told her partner, who checked it and said everything was fine. Stephanie had felt a little clogged up on one side when she woke up, but otherwise, she was in perfect health. Realizing she had hearing loss in her right ear, she went to her doctor immediately.
My ears feel really weird right now.
The doctor said that Stephanie was having a hearing emergency and only had 30 days to get the best treatment possible. Stephanie rushed to see an ear physician, who gave her medication to reduce the swelling in her ear. With treatment, Stephanie was able to recover a large amount of her hearing over time. She continued her medications to manage the swelling, which was made worse by sodium, so she also cut back on salty foods.
No
Though
Cheez-Its?
Stephanie managed her hearing from that point on, she still struggled when her hearing loss fluctuated. Having hearing in only one side can make life difficult and dangerous. People need to have hearing on both sides to figure out where noises are coming from, like how our eyes need 2 images to create an accurate picture and understand depth. Our brain needs information from both ears to create a spatial awareness. With 2 ears, you know where sound is coming from based on how strong it is on each side. So when her right ear hearing was struggling, Stephanie had trouble finding sounds, like figuring out where her phone was when it rang. Stephanie tracked her hearing loss.
I have
and
problems.
had
I can hear fine, I think. I don't know, this video's making me think otherwise. But I could never find my phone. I never hear that shit.
In her first year of living with it. Over time, the frequency went down to once every few months. Eventually, it dropped to only every other year, usually with a stressful live event or diet change. One time, Stephanie was visiting family for Christmas. The annual stress fest of the year. Understandably, this led to a drop in hearing in her right ear. She spent the holiday break eating lots of food and hadn't been watching her water intake and diet as much. And for the first time ever, she felt a fullness in her left ear. She took medication and went through the same process as her first experience with her right ear. Thankfully, within 2 weeks, her hearing bounced back to normal. Stephanie also discovered that Meniere's disease was not quite the right diagnosis for her or her sister. They actually had cochlear hydrops, which is closely related. This is a condition affecting the inner ear, where there is an increase of fluid that leads to swelling and can cause hearing loss. If people also experience vertigo, then the condition progresses to Meniere's. Everyone with Meniere's disease has some kind of hydrops, but most cochlear hydrops patients do not progress as far. If they do, it takes about 1 year to develop. Often, these conditions only affect one ear and can happen at any age, which is why Stephanie and her sister had their initial symptoms at different ages. The conditions can also come on quickly. People will wake up to notice their hearing is different, or try to listen to their phones or headphones and realize they suddenly have less hearing sensitivity. It can be a reduction in overall hearing. or a loss in one side. On the occasion that Meniere's or cochlear
That made-
hydrops
that made
leads
my
to
head feel weird.
RSHL, it will usually be the class 1 level. Both conditions are chronic, and the hearing loss may come and go over the years, especially in the beginning. The cause of cochlear hydrops and Meniere's disease is not fully known. Common conditions that seem to play a role include abnormal immune response, genetic predisposition, viral infections, allergy triggers, and issues with fluid draining in the ears, like we saw with Stefani. Steroids can be prescribed to recover the hearing in some cases. A low-sodium diet is recommended to prevent the swelling in the inner ear. Medication is given to increase blood flow to the ear and prevent episodes of hearing loss. If the cause of the condition is a viral infection, antivirals will help. With treatment, the conditions are both manageable. Cochlear hydrop symptoms tend to lessen and even go away with time. With Meniere's disease, though episodes will fluctuate for years, most people will eventually have some permanent hearing loss.
No.
As for RSHL, the cause is often genetics, but could also be anything that changes the fluid pressure in the inner ear. Otosclerosis, a condition where there is bone overgrowth in the ear. A complicated case of childhood illnesses like measles or chickenpox, autoimmune disorders, blood vessel problem, or ear trauma can also trigger RSHL. But none of these causes explain Chun's case in China. Autoimmune conditions affecting the inner
What's still
ear
going on with
can
this
cause
lady? I
balance
forgot
issues,
Chin's
which
even
leads
a
to
part of
vomiting.
the story.
Though Chun was throwing up, neither her or her doctor mentioned balance issues. Most likely, the cause was a combination of factors, including the lifestyle pressures Dr. Lin noted. If someone has RSHL due to genetics, it will usually be noticeable from a young age, because while children with hearing loss can quickly learn to lip read, they will be unresponsive when they can't see the person speaking. Fortunately, this disorder has no other conditions or complications associated with it. You may be surprised to learn that most people with RSHL speak perfectly well, as many people who are deaf or hard of hearing can have a distinctive way of speaking. Unfortunately, this also means that people with RSHL have a hard time convincing others that they are hard of hearing. Imagine someone telling you they're almost deaf, but they can hear you whispering from across the room. With other conditions that may lead to
Wait.
sudden hearing loss, there
Wait.
are more symptoms.
This is hitting me. This kind of sounds like my mother. It sounds like my mom's hearing is not the best, but like she can hear some shit from across the room, out of nowhere. Huh? Wait, this is kind of opening my eyes up on this shit.
Signs of cochlear hydrops include
At least it sounds
tinnitus.
better. Maybe it's
that
not like the
sounds
same
like a
exact
ringing,
thing.
buzzing, roaring, whistling, or hissing sound in your ear.
Got my
Short-term
mind thinking.
hearing loss, and a feeling of fullness or pressure in the ear. Meniere's has the same symptoms, but also includes dizziness that lasts from 20 minutes to several hours, which can cause nausea and vomiting. It's
Ugh.
best to catch any sudden hearing loss
No
within
vomiting,
48
please.
hours for the best chance of recovery. RSHL can be diagnosed by a hearing care professional or audiologist by using a hearing test. They will look for hearing losses, but excellent speech, poor speech reception without visual help, and sensitivity to high-frequency sounds. To detect hydrops, an electrocochleography or ECOG procedure or an MRI can be used to look for increased inner ear pressure. Doctors will also assess the symptoms and perform hearing tests. Hearing tests will
I wanna
determine
take a
how
hearing
well
test
you
now.
detect sounds at different pitches and volumes and how well you can separate similar sounding words.
Wait.
With Meniere,
Wait, who heard that? Where did I lose?
MRI can be used to
Where
look
did I
for
fall
increased
off?
inner ear pressure.
I fell off at
Doctors
some
will
point.
also assess the symptoms and perform hearing tests. Hearing tests will determine how well you detect sounds at
made it
different
to, like,
pitches
right
and volumes and how well you can separate similar sounding
Oh,
words.
wait, I can hear that one.
With Meniere's,
I couldn't hear the
balance
last one.
assessments will also be done. These can include
The
tests
last
that
one kinda
study
sucked.
eye
The last one I
movement,
could
track
hear.
changes in the affected ears, see which part of the balance system you rely on and which are
I didn't
causing
like that.
issues, and look at how the inner ear
now I know.
responds to sounds. Overall, it's unlikely that you'll experience sudden hearing loss of specific frequencies, but if you do, catching it early is the key. Generally, as long as people don't ignore serious signs or issues, things will be okay. Chun did the right thing by going to a professional quickly, and her
True.
doctor was confident that she would make a full recovery. Hearing and hearing loss are a lot more complicated than we might think.
Honestly,
People
I think
aren't
that's
divided-
just a good idea for like anything. Honestly, like as soon as I feel like a problem, a disturbance in the force, I just immediately just book it to the closest like urgent care or whatever. I take no chances. Like I want to catch on to shit like early, as soon as possible. Like the sooner the better. I feel like.
Into just hearing and non-hearing, but into a whole crazy world of experiences in between. Like me, for example. I seem to be going through a sudden hearing loss right now. If anyone asks, I'm totally deaf to phone calls, knocks at the door, online notifications.
Me too.
And you know what? I'm just gonna make a list.
I'm guilty of that too. Alright, well that was a good eye-opening video. Hearing test on stream. I mean, we kind of did just do that. We could do a better one. Let me see the scale again, one more time.
MRI.
Sorry, this is
can
probably
be used to
burning
look
your
for
fucking
increased
ears because it's hurting my
and
head a little
perform
bit.
hearing.
But I'm so curious.
Detect sounds at.
Okay, so this is 16K frequency 20. I can hear about to 16K.
Different pitches and volumes, and how well you can separate similar.
Stop! Fuck! It wasn't worth it. It wasn't worth it. Okay, please get me off this video.